Hey, I got a question for you. What is the secret to making progress with piano forever? I'm gonna try to show you the concepts, the ideas in this video that will help you to make progress pretty much forever at piano. Doesn't mean that there's not gonna be ups and downs. Doesn't mean it's gonna be smooth, straightforward progress the whole entire way for the rest of your piano career or whatever. But there's some tips I can give you that over the long run, you're going to be able to continue to make progress no matter what. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. This is Warren from the Rhapsody Piano Studio. It's a live stream happening every week on Saturdays, most afternoons. And today's topic is how to make progress forever at piano. And these are going to be some tips on more for the intermediate piano player. If you are not intermediate, I'll suggest you just continue to make progress until you reach this level. There's a lot of reasons I'm going to suggest why this approach really works best for intermediate students. So if you're below that, just try to get up to this level as soon as possible. All right, because part of the issues why I can't recommend this approach for people who are beginners or just starting out on piano is that the first reason is your choice in repertoire is very limited. If you did this approach that I'm going to show you here today, you need to be able to take on multiple pieces. And then, you know, as a beginner or someone who is playing easier music, you're going to be spending... Gosh, all right. Whoopsies. Is it still live? I think it's still live. All right. Because, sorry about that. I don't think so. Let me switch. All right, I think we're back. Sorry about that. Kind of lost track of where I was. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating this stuff. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything here. So if you are under intermediate, if you are a beginner or a little bit more than a beginner, there's gonna be problems for you because your choice in repertoire is very limited. Because my approach that I'm showing to intermediate students, you need to be able to take on a few pieces at a time. And also you're spending pretty much all your time to just get one piece or one song done. So if you only have enough skill to get one song done, you obviously can't take more than one piece song at a time. So getting into it, let's talk about the mainstream approach to how this is usually taught. Because they do teach you, like, when you become advanced or a little bit more, I guess, intermediate as well, you're able to play more than a few pieces at a time. And the typical mainstream approach, and I'll also use my own my own experiences in college to kind of highlight this example, is that they typically tell you to, or what will be assigned to you are just pieces that you're working on at your level, but each piece is at the same level. So, let's say if you're working like on a Beethoven sonata or something like that too, typically and if you go to where I was in college, they're going to give you a few more pieces at that same level. And unless you're actually at the skill to handle that, and most piano students, even at the college level, just are not these days, that's just not really a good approach. Because I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I got all these high level pieces, and I had like literally no experience playing a lot of this repertoire, especially at this high level of difficulty. So for me, it was like trying to climb several mountains at one time, and I always had issues because I never got to the peak of any of them. So it's like you can't get to the peak of any of these mountains. So some of these mountains, it's imagine you're trying to climb them at the same time or whatnot, or trying to go at different paces. Like, you never get to the top of them. You never get to a point where you're mastering each of the repertoire, because the pieces were just so vast, so intimidating, so large. I mean, if I had done it, if I went back and did it again, I would obviously pick a lot shorter pieces. Even, if difficulty, I don't know about that, but definitely would pick a lot shorter pieces, and then I will tell you in a bit the approach that I would recommend. But another reason why this approach is not good, learning pieces at the same time, is because, or at the same exact level, you're not going to make progress that much. Because, let's say, it's this way too. It's just there's just too much predictability. Like if you the idea about predictability is if there is actually with progress and if you're actually learning stuff, predictability is a killer for you. Predictability means that the growth rate is very flat, very low. If it's too predictable, you're not progressing that much. To actually, it's kind of counterintuitive, but to make progress, you need to follow kind of like a program that is a bit unpredictable. It's a little bit random, you know. What is an example? Like working out. So if you work out, like if you those people who make like immediate gains in the gym, first of all, you just start out and you're just not used to exercising certain muscles. But the people who can actually, you know, make incredible progress, they change up their workout routines. I don't know how often, but they do it a bit because they're trying to make sure their muscles can't predict what exercise is coming next. And when your muscles can't predict what exercise is coming next, it kind of overcompensates. So if it thinks you're going to lift, let's say you're used to lifting like 20 pounds or something like that, right? Then the next time you lift like 50, and then the next time your body doesn't know what to expect, it's going to overcompensate. So the muscle growth is going to be very fast, and you know that's how they make progress like that. So I take the same principles with this process that I'm going to show you here. Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is that this approach could work, like practicing pieces at this level, but it's only for advanced pianists. Students and pianists who are actually already at that level can handle like multiple pieces at the most difficult repertoire. But that's like, it's almost like elite level, world class, you know. So my approach, and this is the one that I'm going to recommend to you, and it works for me very well, I do it for some other students as well who kind of are a bit more advanced or intermediate. The approach that I suggest is, yes, you should be practicing multiple pieces, but you should be practicing multiple pieces and songs at different levels. I'll explain that in a bit, but the reasons why this works really well is that, you're always going to be making progress, you know, at one level or the other. So even if you're not making progress at your highest pieces, at the little easier levels, you're going to be making progress no matter what, and you're going to be able to practice new material, which is a very key factor. You know, if you're working on these incredible pieces, like they're very long, maybe like more than a few pages, and then you're getting through like, you know, half a page in like a week or a month. There's not a lot of new material you're learning there. So the last thing I want to say about this before we get into my recommendations is that, you know, a lot of people aren't going to be used to learning this way, because over time, I mean, in the beginning and yeah, like over time, there's a lot of fluctuations, a lot of ups and downs. It's almost like a roller coaster ride. So if you want something predictable, I don't recommend this approach. But if you want something predictable, you're not going to be making a lot of progress. So there's a lot of ups and downs. Sometimes there are a few days or maybe even a week where it's like you're just going up and down. You're not making any progress. But over time, those fluctuations kind of even out, and your progress just goes up, 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 up. Okay. I don't know how high, but over time, you know, there's going to be peaks and valleys. What I mean by that is you're going to have like these, I mean, just overall in general, to get good at something, you're going to go through this. You're going to have rates of progress. You're going to have plateaus. You're going to feel like you get worse, and you're going to go and you have another progress, another plateau. You're going to get worse, another progress, a plateau, and so on and so on. You're just going to experience more of these. Okay. It's kind of like supercharging your progress. So how do you pick your pieces and your projects? How I recommend is, yeah, and I don't really even think in terms of difficulty. I think in terms of time frame, like how long is a piece going to take for you to learn? So when we take this approach, you can think of pieces that you can finish in music that you can practice and get done relatively well on a daily time frame, right? You can do it daily, you can do it weekly, one weekly, maybe one monthly, maybe one from like 3 months, and then maybe like an epic project you're working on that will take you anywhere from like half a year to a year. So that's the approach that I like in general. And let's say, okay, this is some great, you know, techniques and tips and whatever you're giving me, but I don't know what level I'm at. So how do you figure out what level you're at? Well, we'll just use some common sense practical advice here. Pick a new piece that you haven't heard or even played before, okay? And then simple, you're just going to record how long it takes you to get that piece done. And by done, you know, just like, you know, relatively well. You don't have to be perfect or have to play at Carnegie Hall or anything like that. Just, you know, some piece that you can, you'd be happy, you're happy about, like, you know, like what you can present. And that's going to be your baseline. That's going to be your starting point. Let's say the Bach invention, or not invention, but minuet, for example. Like, I would say if you're able to finish that, I'm just trying to give you a reference point. If you're able to finish that in a week, then what level would you be at? I think you'd be kind of like in between easy and early intermediate. So I hope that kind of gives you a good starting point to, you know, to figure out where you're at. And if you need some more examples, just go on to my YouTube channel. I have like thousands of videos of, you know, piano tutorials at all these different levels. So if you just browse for yourself, and, you know, these ideas of like what is intermediate and advanced is kind of objective for everyone. It's very personal, and, you know, everyone has their opinions about it. So just look at the tutorials that I have on my channel, and just figure out to you, you know, this. So he says this is intermediate. To me, this is really kind of like early intermediate or something like that too. So just browse, watch, listen, and see if this music is pretty much appropriate for you. Okay, yeah. Hey, Nakir Bo Azizi, thank you for the question. I'll actually answer your question after the live stream is over. I like this question. All right. So the last thing I want to say about this too is you have to be careful in that, you know, how long you finish a piece. Your practice skills might not actually be good. So you might not actually be practicing the right way. So you might be thinking you're not at intermediate level, but it's really your practice skills that need improvement. Okay. So if you have so you might be blaming it for, you know, like you're just not at that level, but in fact, you know, you need to learn to practice the right way. So you need to practice hard, but you also need to practice smart. So figure that out. Figure out what your issues are with that, because, you know, it's not as easy as people might think it is. Yeah, so over time, I really believe this is the best approach. And with this too, if you so choose, you know, having multiple pieces, it also allows you to, you know, practice for longer periods of time, because it's much more fresh. It keeps it, you have a lot more energy, it's a lot more variety, you know, and you kind of start to enjoy the unpredictability after a while. I use this concept all the time when I'm reading. I don't really have as much time these days because I've got a lot of projects going on, but when I do have my free time, I like to get in anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours of reading done every day. And the way that I was able to do that is, you know, I picked up this idea from a very famous person who you probably wouldn't know, but this guy named Nassim Taleb. Anyway, and a lot of other people kind of do this too, but I would read, you know, I would have 4 or 5 books going on in my rotation. So as soon as I got bored with one book, I just went to the next one. And as soon as I got bored with that, I just went to the next one. And you just keep, you know, going around this constant process, this little, you know, wheel. And I just didn't need to stop reading. Whereas before, I would force myself to read one book for a long period of time. I get bored with it, and I would just stop reading for that day. I got too tired, you know. But that's not to say that these are just, you know, this is just a template I'm giving you. If you pick something up from this and you try to change things out on your own and pick up your own routine and you make some tweaks to this, that's fine. Let me know. Actually, it might be better than what I'm suggesting for you here. Yeah, so you could even do something like work on one piece on another day. Maybe you just do that for like 30 minutes or a few hours at a time. You spend a lot of time on that, because sometimes I will read a book, it really catches my interest, and then, you know, I can read that for several hours like at one time, right? So just take everything I'm saying with not a grain of salt, but it's not black and white. Okay, there's some gray in there that you can change stuff around. Yeah, so I'll say you can also do the same thing with your practice, you know. Yeah, anyways, that's it for today. Yeah, I really believe in this concept a lot. You know, I've been really testing it out in my own practice, and my progress has been pretty good. But really happy with how it's working out for me, and I hope that this will definitely help you as well. Anyway, thanks for joining me today on this live stream. If you like this video, please subscribe, you know, like, share, comment, whatever. Anyway, all right, let's before I end today's live session, I do have a question. Would love to answer this for you. Any kinds of scales to practice for beginners? Let me see. Thanks a lot for, I'll answer that one too. Thanks a lot for reading my question. Another question, can you give us a list of easy pieces for beginners? I just finished learning River Flows in You in 3 weeks. I say River Flows in You is not for a beginner. Your idea of a beginner is probably different than what I would say. So based on this, I would say if you can play River Flows in You, that's like, I'll say like in between intermediate. It's like in between intermediate and late intermediate. So you're like either an intermediate student or almost intermediate. So you should go back and watch this live stream because this is totally for you at your level. I'll say what kind of scales you practice if you're intermediate. I'm just gonna call you intermediate because that's not beginner at all. Let's say you finished River Flows in You within 3 weeks. So if you can get to a point where you finish something like that in a little less time, then I would say you're legit intermediate. Other pieces that I would recommend, it depends on what you like. Do you like classical music? Do you like jazz? Because there's just a lot of genres out there. But what I would recommend to you is just go through my YouTube channel. I have like thousands of videos. Like if you go to my main channel homepage, you can actually browse by difficulty level. So I actually have music that is, some of the categories on my channel. One of the categories is intermediate or beginner to early intermediate. So go there and you have, literally like hundreds, thousands of videos to browse from. Yeah, this channel right here. Classical music. Can you play Clementi? This one? That. Clementi, I think that would be a good start. You can get started on all the sonatinas. I think that might be a little bit easier for you. So, but it's a lot more material for you to learn. And also, I would recommend you definitely want to be studying some Bach. Study some Bach inventions. That's really going to help your technique, especially a lot. So that would be my 2 choices. And then from there, like there's just too many choices. But I would recommend at least the Bach inventions. You definitely want to do that. For scales, depends on what your goal is with scales. If you want to practice musically, you just practice slowly. You can make speed a thing if you want to play faster. Thanks, man. I'm not done answering your question, so I hope you stay around. But scales, I'll show you what my routine is. You can adjust it accordingly. I'm playing at about 100 BPM so far with scales. I'm going through every scale. I'm going through all the major scales, all the minor scales as well, all the keys, I would say. So what I do is I'm taking it in different patterns. I don't know, this might be a little bit too advanced, but I want to show you what I'm doing. First, I'm taking it in thirds. So I'm starting on the C, and I'm literally taking my 3rd finger, my right hand, starting a 3rd above that note. I'm going through all the keys like that too. So I'm doing harmonic minor, or all the minor major scales, right? And then also melodic minor. That, and then I also go through so that's pattern thirds, and then I also go 6th. So right hand, you're starting on the basic note, okay, and then the left hand. So if it's a C major scale, right hand I'm starting on C, left hand I'm starting on E. It's a lot trickier than you think, but that's my approach. I like hitting it from different angles, and then if I get bored of this and if I'm not making a lot of progress, the important thing is I will switch it up. So if you go online, if you go on YouTube, if you go on the internet, there's going to be so many different suggestions. There's going to be so many different ways that I'll suggest to you. So that's what I'll suggest, is for you to practice the scales and then as many different ways as possible. That's going to help you like in the long run. Because I was practicing traditionally scales just up and down, just like that for the longest time, and my progress was flat. And then when I started to switch it up and try to do it in a different pattern, different ways and things like that, you could do rhythmic patterns, different patterns. Anyway, that's it for today. This is just totally turning into like a scale live stream, but just wanted to get your question done. Yeah, that's it. That's it for today. So thanks for your questions, Nakir. I will... If you have any more questions, be sure to leave me some comments. I would love to answer more of your questions in details. And who knows, maybe one of your questions could even turn into a live stream, okay? I'm dedicated to helping you guys improve at piano. And I really love sharing this stuff as well. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Nakir. I'll hope to see you again sometime. This live stream happens every week, every Saturday. So keep a lookout. Hit that notification and all that too. But yeah, thanks for the questions. Really enjoyed taking it today. All right, I'll see you guys next week. You have a really awesome, splendid weekend, and happy practicing.